This is SiriusXM Marine weather and fish mapping on the new Simrad NSS4 display. We're not going to do a deep dive, but we are going to show you some of the unique user interface with this new NSS4. We'll show you some new weather as well as fish mapping, how it looks on this new NSS display, and we'll go through some of those features as well, but it won't be a total deep dive. We also will provide technical support at the end, a resource if anybody has any questions or wants to reach back out to us at the end, one of the last slides that we go through. All right, so let's introduce ourselves. I am Jeff Leach with SiriusXM Marine. We also have Dan Dickerson here with SiriusXM Marine. Dan and I are both based out of the Maryland office and based in Maryland, so on the Chesapeake Bay. And we have Scott Walton joining us from Simrad. Scott, you want to tell us a little bit about yourself, and then as well as above and beyond SiriusXM weather and fish mapping, can you maybe give us a little overview on the NSS4 and what makes it different than the Evo 3 and some of the other predecessors to it?
Yeah, sure. Would love to. Thanks for having me. So my name is Scott Walton. I am the North America, South America, and Canada category manager for Simrad products. I'm based here out of Florida. A couple things on the NSS4 and big differentiators are we have a new design. So we've incorporated some new functionality utilizing our hybrid touch, meaning we have full touchscreen capabilities plus a hybrid controller that gives us full control as well. The design on it, we've reduced the plastic edging and molding, so it looks really sleek and clean when flush mounted to the to your dashboard. And I cannot overemphasize how fast this unit is. Without getting too geeky and nerding out too much on this, we are using a new Qualcomm processor that was introduced about 2 years ago. That really, we built the unit and its capabilities around that processor, and it is lightning fast, as you'll see as we go through some of the transitions. There's zero delay on it. There's also some intuitivity that's built into the unit, such as what we call a mini inspector that allows us to get some information the minute we interact with the screen without having to do some deeper dives into menu functions as we've had to do on previous NSS units. So that's the highlights on it. I encourage, there are a bunch of, just to call out a bunch of YouTube videos on NSS4 on our Simrad YouTube channel. So feel free to go there, and we've highlighted some videos there as well.
Excellent. And Scott, quick question that came from Adrian about the NSS3. How does this differ and how does the user interface and features and stuff differ between the NSS4 and the NSS3?
Yeah, so the weather features are pretty, and Dan will cover a little bit of that, are pretty similar. We do the ability for us to show a much greater detail, I think, is enhanced with the NSS 4, and also from a it is a newer based user interface system, so it's a redevelopment of what we've normally seen in NSS all the way through NSS Evo 3S. There was 4 generations there of NSS. So this is a brand new user interface for us that we find much more intelligent, I guess, and much more intuitive as the consumer or the end user interacts with the machine.
Yep. Thank you. Appreciate that. And
Thank
so we
you.
will go through those features that Scott mentioned for all of you guys and just show you some of the differences on the NSS, but you can still garner or gain information about just general SiriusXM weather and fish mapping services. All right. So Dan, you want to take it away and dive into the new updates?
Okay, so as Scott mentioned previously, things look a little different with the new NSS4 starting right here on the startup page. This is an old Evo 3 image here. You can see the menu on the side is gone now, and you can pull up a menu if you like. Also, right away, you can see if you want to get to the music, you can click on the audio button to get to the music, be it SiriusXM or some other form of music. And quickly, I just wanted to go into the settings and show you the new layout for looking at and getting your radio ID number to set up a subscription. When you go into settings, you go right to boat network, and under the device list, if the unit is hooked up, you're going to see it right there, SiriusXM. You can click on the drop down and ask for details, and it's going to give you the details about the device, show you if it's subscribed, if it's not. And then down at the bottom of the page, it's going to give you your ID number, which is what we need to set up a subscription, and your signal strength. So those are the key features just to get things started. Going back to the previous EVO display for just a minute, talking about differences. So on the previous EVO display, when you wanted to go look at weather or fish mapping, you would have to click on and bring up a menu. You'd have to turn on an overlay. You'd have to select the type of overlay that you wanted. Then you'd have to select which options you wanted. And then you'd have to go into another long list of items and actually into different categories to find what you wanted to turn on the weather layers. That's no longer the case. Now, when you click on the chart button, immediately you go to the chart page, you click on your menu button, and here we are. We're looking at SiriusXM weather, SiriusXM fish mapping, immediate access, also access, for example, to other systems like your radar overlay. So we're going to go to SiriusXM weather, select it, and you notice there's a drop down over here on the side now indicating we can go deeper in, which is what we're going to do here. So we've selected SiriusXM weather. We've requested that it be shown on the chart. And before we go any further, drop down to the bottom, it says data status. That's where you can quickly see if the signal is coming in, and if the weather layers are there, there'll be a timestamp. So very quick way to reference and make sure your system is working. Next, you can turn on the legend so we can see there's a nice crisp legend that appears on screen. We're going to talk about animation in a minute, but I'm going to go up to weather reports. Here, this is where you can very easily tap into your marine zone report. It brings up the image of the different zones. You can click on a zone, and here is your weather information right at your fingertips. No more listening to that garbled voice on the VHF radio. Really easy to get to. And then to turn it back off, simply exit out and you're done. Now we'll go look at the actual weather layers. So here you can see a big difference between this and EVO. You've got all your layers right here, and you can turn on and off the layers as desired. So here I've turned on my storm cell attributes. And I chose Lake Michigan for this seminar because when I was creating this webinar, we had a very interesting storm system over Lake Michigan. What you can see here, what we call storm attributes, these are individual storm cells, and these are tornadoes. You can see that little strike pointy thing, those are tornadoes that are occurring. So we give you very in-depth weather information. Next, we'll go to lightning. So here are lightning strikes, and you'll notice that it's a yellow lightning symbol with a number by it. That's the number of strikes in that area. And as you zoom in, it will show the strikes, and I'll get to that in a minute. We'll jump up here and show you precipitation. So here's precipitation, and this is the new way precip shows up on screen. This is your storm and what it's going to look like. As compared to the old EVO displays, you can see the pixelation on the old EVO. That's gone. So now you're getting a much cleaner image of a storm. Zooming in about the lightning. So here, once you zoom in really close, we can see where those 79 strikes were occurring. And here you can see the lightning strikes are different colors. The color indicates the age of the strike, because what we're showing on screen is strikes that have occurred within the last 20 minutes. And the bright yellow is a lightning strike that just occurred. So it goes from bright yellow and then to gray and then fades out. Also, when you do have storm attributes or lightning strikes showing up on screen, you can click on one of those and it'll give you a little bit of information in the pop-up box. You can also select SiriusXM object info, and then over on the side, nice and big where it's easier to read, you can see more details about that specific storm cell that you had selected. So here, I'm turning on the animation. And you can see there's a bar that comes across the bottom here, and it's giving us the timestamp. And when you hit the play button, then it will move to show you which way the storm is heading as from that down, and you can very quickly drag if you want to see where it's going and where it's come from with that animation feature. Next, we're going to go over to our weather selection again. And here I've turned on wind. This is your traditional wind symbol showing up, giving you the speed and the direction. There's also a drop down you can go to. So if you don't want to see the traditional wind barb appear, you can select to have an arrow instead. I prefer the barbs myself because they give speed and direction very, very clean. In this example, we're seeing this barb right in the middle of the screen is showing that the wind is coming from the east, running to the west. If we look off to the left a little bit, the wind is 5 knots here. It's 10 knots here in the center. And then this symbol down below that looks like a letter F laying on its side, that's indicating that the wind is 15 knots. So that from the dot to the long shaft points into the wind, and then the tick marks on the end of the shaft give you the speed representation. Now I've turned on the wave data. So here we can see the blue is the wave information. We're getting an arrow showing us the direction of the waves. We're getting a time period showing us how many seconds apart the waves are, and we're giving the wave height as well. Now, traditionally, wave height is shown as a color, and you still have that option. If you go to the wave drop-down menu, you can see there's a color overlay selection or the text selection. There's also the ability to change the data range of the waves, the color that appears. So I'm looking at 0 to 10 foot is what we're showing on screen via the legend down at the bottom. So you can see that any waves that would be 10 foot high would be showing up in red. There's none in this area. And you can adjust this. I'll change it down to 7. So you can see how that scale changed. It just gives you a way to put in a limitation. If you know you don't want to be in out anything, larger than 7 footers, you can set it up so 7 footers would show up as red, for example. Next, I've turned on sea surface temperature. So now the color of the water is a representation of the temperature. And again, we have a drop down. You can go in and set the data range on the temperature and how it shows up on the color palette. So right now it's set for 40 to 80. And I can change that, or I can let the machine do it for me. So first I'll just select 67. You can see how the color's changed. And then I'll select auto configure. What this does is the machine chooses the best range to show you the detail for where you're at. So here it's changed it to show a slightly different color palette. And by the way, you can also click on screen anywhere and it will give you the temperature at that location. And as before, you can click on SiriusXM object info and it'll put it over on the side, much larger, easier to read. So here I've gone down, we're going to turn on our fronts and barometric pressure information. And again, you see the down at the bottom, the scale came up because this information can be forecast out, not just current conditions. So we'll turn on the pressure centers, turn on the isobars, turn on the fronts, so you can get a nice picture of what the weather is doing. And if you want to see what it's doing out ahead, you have that option using the time forecast bar down at the bottom.
All right, that's where we'll pause and see if there's any questions. By the way, I know you guys are already familiar with this, but feel free to chat any questions as we go through, and then we will stop again towards the end of the webinar and answer any of those questions. So if you have any specific questions, we will provide technical support information at the end too, how you can reach out to tech support both for Simrad as well as SiriusXM. All right, so now we're going to dive a bit into fish mapping, but keep the questions coming. Same drop-down menu as Dan shared with us previously, except you don't select SiriusXM weather, you select SiriusXM fish mapping. And from here, you go down to your layers and you'll see the various layers. So first, we're going to talk about fishing recommendations. Again, there's a drop-down. You've got 6 species under fishing recommendations. And once you click on those, they show up on screen. These are recommendations. So each species has a recipe for it with specific sea surface temperatures, times of years, depths, what kind of nutrients content they like, and our oceanographers populate this twice a week, on Tuesday morning and on Friday morning at the crack of dawn. So that's fishing recommendations. Next, we're going to go back to the layer selection and select plankton fronts. So these are your nutrients. This is often people say chlorophyll, but plankton is that nutrient in the water. And you're looking for fronts. You're looking for the areas where it's very rich, dark, turbid water often, next to areas that are much clearer, cleaner, and don't have that nutrient. And that's where the bait fish are attracted to those nutrients. So we're looking for, these are labeled on 2, 3, and 4. 2 is a moderate front, 3 is a strong front, and 4 is a very strong front. So Dan just clicked on very strong front, a number 4, and it pulls up and shows you it's a very strong. All right, next we're going to sea surface temperature fronts. These are red lines as opposed to what you just saw with plankton, which were green lines. These are labeled on a scale of 1 to 4. 1 is a weak front, 2 is a moderate front, 3 is a strong front, and 4 is a very strong front. So again, you're looking for those strong and very strong fronts. And as Dan just showed us, you click on the front line itself, and it tells you everything about that. It tells you it's a very strong front. It tells you where it is, how far it is, etc. So what we highly recommend and our oceanographers recommend is pairing these details together, right? So if you're offshore fishing, you want to know where the hot spots are. So if you overlay fishing recommendations here on screen, you will often see that the sea surface temperature fronts, again, those are the red lines, and the plankton fronts, which again are the green lines, they correspond or they overlap. So you're looking for areas primarily where there's a strong or a very strong sea surface temperature front that abuts or is adjacent to or coincides with a strong or very strong plankton front. And that's often where you'll find these fishing recommendations at the same time. So you have to kind of put your analysis cap on, but very useful information if you're going offshore fishing for those 6 species, pelagic species. All right, now we're going to go back in and we're going to show weed lines. So weed lines are very unique. This is NASA imagery that shows reflectivity off the water. Then we have our oceanographers that are analyzing this data and showing you only where the big patches of weeds are. By the way, this is only offshore, about 20 nautical miles, because there's just too much interference when you get close to shore. So you have to be about 20 miles offshore to see weed lines. So in this particular case, if you click on the weed line, you see exactly when it was updated. And in this case, it was updated 1:45 a.m. If you look at the legend there at the bottom, you'll see that we show you 2 days prior of weed lines all the way up to today's weed lines. We don't have any good examples of 2 days prior on this, but just know that that purple would be a lesser dense or rich color purple. And we do that to show you where the weed lines potentially are moving, because the ocean is a dynamic creature and weed lines are constantly shifting throughout the day. All right. Another way to see sea surface temperatures is on or by contour lines. Some anglers that are offshore anglers know exactly what temperatures the fish species they're targeting are, really prefer. And this way you can really see where those contour lines show up. So we show you a lot of different surface temperatures are critical for anybody offshore fishing. And this is just another way to analyze that data. In addition, we will show you 30-meter subsurface temperatures. Really critical when you're fishing, especially in the middle of the summer in places like North Carolina, all the way down to Florida, where sometimes the sea surface temperatures are almost identical. You can get sea surface temperatures in the 80s and 90s, and usually there's not much of a break. So by showing you sea surface temperature or temperatures 100 feet down, you can often see much more distinct breaks that may attract the game fish. All right, the next one we're going to show is sea surface height anomaly. So the ocean is constantly undulating up and down with upwellings and downwellings. So we're looking at an upwelling here at the bottom. And these often, by the way, can be eddies in circles. One goes clockwise, and then the downwelling goes counterclockwise. Those are when those appear right next to each other, the areas in between, which is the water that is at surface level, that is not an upwelling or a downwelling, is often described as a convergence zone. Those convergence zones tend to trap bait fish and nutrients, and obviously can be a very good place to target your game fish as well, especially when those coincide with sea surface temperature fronts and plankton fronts and those recommendations that we showed you previously. All right. All fish mapping subscribers have access to the fish mapping app at no additional cost. This is a planning tool. You know, fish mapping is a subscription-based service. So we wanted to create a planning tool when our fish mapping subscribers were on land. You cannot buy this app exclusive or separate from the fish mapping subscription. But we have added a lot of rich features to this, including shaded relief, spot soundings, wrecks and reefs. You can put waypoints into it. So it's just a lot more feature rich than we could do on our satellite-based service, and a great planning tool for anybody that already is a subscriber who is interested in subscribing, and then you can subscribe and get access to the app. All right, Scott, you want to dive into what is required to get SiriusXM weather and fish mapping on the Simrad displays?
Yeah, sure. Would love to. So we have a kit that comes with everything that's needed. We call it our weather module 4. The 4 basically, it has nothing to do with NSS 4. It basically denotes the series or the generation of weather modules that we are up to. So that WM4 is available for any installers out there, many different distributors. It's also widely available on Amazon, as well as West Marine, Bass Pro, any of your large retail outlets as well. And that retails for $4.99.
We do have a special offer going on right now, all the way through June 30th, where provided you buy one of these WM4 receivers and you start your service, you can take advantage of a $300 rebate. So we will send you a Visa gift card for $300. Once you've signed up online, it's a fairly simple process. And then we'll just go ahead and send that to you. And that's a huge savings considering the WM4 is only $4.99. To find out this detail, go to SiriusXM.com/marine rebate for all the details and to sign up for it. All right, 4 different plans. The most basic plan is called the Marine Inland Plan. There is also a coastal plan that's $37.99. The inland plan was $17.99. The coastal plan's $37.99. That's good for just basic service offshore. It will not give you forecasts up to 48 hours, and it will not give you high def or high res sea surface temperatures beyond 24 nautical miles offshore. So for anybody that wants forecasts and wants that those high definition sea surface temperatures offshore, the Marine Offshore package is the way to go, and that's $64.99. And then the superset package is SiriusXM Fish Mapping, and that's $110 a month, and it comes with all the weather features as well as those 8 dedicated fishing features that we just briefly went through a few minutes ago.
And if you purchase a new WM4, the first month of fish mapping is free. That's in addition to that $300 rebate.
Yeah, we have some other trial offers as well that we can offer anybody who's interested in a new subscriber. All right, for anybody who does not know or hasn't done a little bit more of a deep dive or wants some how-to knowledge, we have a very thorough marine video library. And in this case, you go to SiriusXM.com/marine library. You click on that Simrad, Lowrance, and B&G tab, and it will walk you through a series of how-to videos as well as more extensive webinars, often that Dan and I have done, that are really, really useful. They're tutorials, right? They'll give you all the details that you need to understand your service. So highly recommend people go to the video library. All right, technical support. If you have any questions or need technical support about SiriusXM, it's marine.support@SiriusXM.com. Generally, you'll get a response within 24 hours or sooner. And this is specific to your WM4 or your SiriusXM subscription, or you're having technical challenges, signals coming in and out, or you're having issues with SiriusXM in particular. If you have any questions that are related to Simrad, technical support for Simrad is simrad.tech@navico.com, or you can call the 1-800 number listed below.